Hello and welcome to another video. So today has been a bit of a topsy-turvy day. Jason's off this week and he's been decorating, so I'm just going to put together now our tea. I've made some gingerbread. You can check out the full video for this. A little sneak peek. I have some gingerbread loaves in there.
Oh.
There will be a video with that recipe in. And what we're going to make tonight is a beef and mushroom stroganoff we're going to have with some pasta. So first thing we're going to do, we've got a pan of boiling water on. I've put some salt in there. I'm just going to add the rest of our pasta because that's about the end of it. There we go. That's our pasta on. We're going to get our frying pan heating up. So that's that one. And we'll get some little bit of butter in there, heating up and melting while I chop up the mushrooms. So we're going to use clover rather than butter because I've had a bit of a day baking, so we're a bit short on butter. We have our just normal closed cup mushrooms, which I will sort out and wash, and some beef. You can use steak beef, but I'm going to use minced because that's what I've got in at the moment. So come back in a few minutes when I've got all the mushrooms washed and chopped. Please excuse the dog, he's found his pumpkin, so he's playing. Okay, so we've washed our mushrooms. I'm just taking the stalks out of them. We've got a couple of pans on now. One of them is on, the frying pan is on with our butter melting. I'm just taking the stalks out of our mushrooms. I'm going to chop them up. And they're going to go into our pan. Ugh, little stringy bits of compost. Stroganoff needs chunky mushrooms, so we're chopping them about that thick, quite chunky. We're just waiting for our butter to melt. We've got our mushrooms, and the first thing we're going to do is fry our mushrooms off in our butter because we want that lovely mushroom flavour for a stroganoff. That's the taste we're after, mushroom. Okay. Put our mushrooms in. We just need to get these good and hot and covered in butter. That's the plan. I need to get these nice and hot before we do the meat. So the meat's going to go into this pan as well with the smallest amount of stock. But we need to get these mushrooms started a little bit first. Mushrooms are all coated. Just put a little bit extra butter in there. And they're starting to fry off. Once our mushrooms have started to look like that, we can add our meat. So I'm going to add to this minced beef. If you had steak or diced beef, you could add that. But for this recipe, I'm going to use minced beef. So I'll get that added into the pan. So this is just normal butcher's minced beef. Has been defrosting in the fridge, so when we get our meat, because I have a menu plan and I do it like weekly, I just defrost what I need the day before. Get rid of that, don't need that bit. If you break your mince up when you pop it in the pan, it helps with the cooking process, and you tend to end up with bigger chunks of meat than if you try and do it with your spatula. Your fingers are a lot softer, although not everybody likes the feel of raw meat. We'll get all that beef in, and we will wash our hands, and then we'll get that stirred round. Okay, so hands washed, and it's time to start cooking our beef. So we want it all to amalgamate with these mushrooms right from the off to get that flavour through them. Mushrooms, when they're cooked like this, they have a lovely strong flavour. That's what we're after. start our meat off browning. And while it's in the pan like that, we're just going to add a bit of seasoning to it. So I'm going to add some onions, and I can open it. So this is just onion granules, like little tiny bits of shredded onion. It smells quite strong. So we're going to add our onions, healthy amount. A sprinkle of garlic. I'm not very good at judging garlic, but we'll try.
It's okay, I like garlic.
Sprinkle of garlic.
Good for your immune system.
Some paprika, and this is the smoked paprika. And of course, my favourite, tiny bit of aromat.
Magic aromat.
And I'm going to add as well just a little bit of black pepper, just to taste. A little bit of black pepper. There we go. And that mince is going to sit there and cook through with those mushrooms. And if it starts to dry out, we can add a tiny little bit of beef stock. Now we're going to put a sauce on this, so we don't want it to have too much stock on, but we do want all that flavour. Let's give it a smell, Jay, see what you think of that.
Oh, lovely.
You can see all that's starting to brown, which is what we want.
Good.
It is.
Making me hungry. Making Ziggy hungry, he's come flying in. Two chefs here now. Playing out in the snow.
Right, so while all that meat is cooking, let's get this little pan on, and we're going to make a quick white sauce. So I've got our butter in there. And to that we're going to add some flour once that's melted. So that pan is now on using our plastic. Got enough paprika in now. Pasta's bubbling nicely. This is smelling delicious. You can see how fast that mince browns. And those mushrooms, it smells beautiful. So everyone does their stroganoff slightly different. So if this isn't one that you're used to seeing, let's cook stroganoff my way.
Call your video, Stroganoff my way.
Just waiting for our butter to melt in here so I can add a bit of flour to make our paste for a roux sauce. Okay, so I'm going to add little by little some flour to make the paste. There we go. So that's our paste, all stuck on the inside. So I'm going to turn that down, and start adding slowly our milk. So we add our milk little by little, whisking every time to try and avoid lumps. Be patient with the bechamel sauce. That's the best advice I can give you. It might not seem like it's doing much initially, although this one seems to be going quite well quite quick. Okay, so our sauce is slowly starting to thicken. We've got that right down now on, should be on 2. It's a pasta I've turned down. This is what I mean about my temperatures. Right, so we can let that start to thicken up a bit. To our beef, we're just going to add a beef stock pot and let that melt through our meat and our mushrooms. So this is our little bit of stock we're adding to our meat. The rest of it will be the sauce. But these stock pots are great because they just melt into the meat and start to add that lovely flavour all the way through. You can see it's almost all gone. They just melt with the heat. So Whereas a stock cube, you have to add water. This just adds to the meat without adding any liquid. Right. Meat's going well. Sauce is going well. So because this is going in as savoury and we're not making this sauce cheesy, we're actually going to add some beef stock to this once it starts to thicken. So we'll get like a thick, beefy kind of cream sauce, which is what we're after. I've added about 1/4 of milk to that. If you have any cream, you can finish this off with cream. I think with the butter and milk, it's enough. I'm going to add our stock to this now. Exactly the same process, little by little. Looks a bit like mild tea. There we go. And we're going to add to that now a little bit of mixed herbs. Useless of those pots. Put some mixed herbs through it and a little tiny touch of salt. And then all we've got to do is wait for it to thicken. So come back in a few minutes when it's thickened up. Okay, so we're getting there. Our meat's cooked, pasta's cooked. We're just waiting for this sauce to thicken a tiny bit more. It's still quite loose, although it's getting there. So wait for it to thicken a tiny bit more. Then we're going to add this sauce to our meat and it will be time to serve up. Okay, so our sauce is thickened. So we're now going to add this to our beef. Get that stirred all the way through. So this adds our creaminess now, which will eventually coat our pasta. That adds the creaminess to the mushrooms and the meat. There we are. So that's a really easy stroganoff. So you can leave stroganoffs to simmer for hours and hours, but with a decorating day we're quite hungry. So we're going to serve it up with our pasta. And the next point you see it will be Jason's taste test. Okay, so it is time for the taste test.
Really important test now.
So this is the first time he's had my stroganoff. See what he thinks.
Oh, it's lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Nice and warm.
Warmed you up, nice and quite creamy as well.
Yeah.
Creamy, earthy mushrooms, nice pasta, all cooked beautifully.
Happy days. And he's got gingerbread for afters. So that's it. That is an easy beef and mushroom stroganoff. I will pop the recipe in the description as always. Any comments I will try and get to. Thank you so much for watching, for all your interactions, and I will see you on the next one.